Hello and welcome back to part 3 of this Scriptcase training. During today's video we are creating or developing a inventory management system where we can manage our items or products within various warehouses amongst various groups. So we already are now in part 3 and we will be continuing from where we had left off shortly previously within the last video. So let's continue off from where we were. We have so far created the admin pages. So if we look here, we have created the admin pages for management of the countries, document requirements, warehouses, adjustments, as well as the products, items, brands, manufacturers, where we had created 2 separate forms for the insertion and management of our products. We also have our warehouse applications where we have created the employees management grid and form, as well as an inventory adjustment form and then movement forms where we can then transfer the items within our warehouse. We then have the warehouse coordination, which we had just created, and last of all we had generated the coordinators form and grid. So we will now continue within the inventory folder, and I will start by creating a new grid application. Okay, so each of the grids we will be creating within this folder each have a custom MySQL statement or select, and here we are using each time the view tables and combining that then with either the coordinators, the employees, the warehouses, and so forth, so that we can display all of the relevant data in one go without having to use selects within each of these grid applications, as we had done within the previous applications. So as you can see, there are multiple ways to adjust and display the data that you have within the applications created within Scriptcase. Okay, so now my SQL select statement here is here. We are then selecting here the items warehouses table as well as then the coordinators table, and combining that with the coordinators ID, the warehouse, and whether it's active. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click create. We first need to define our name, so I'll call it grid and warehouse inventory, and click then the create button. Okay, so I now run this grid application. We can see the defaults that are available here. So we have here the item warehouse, the stock available, the minimum maximum quantity, the reorder point, and the active status. Okay, so I can quickly here adjust the fields, and here I will hide the item warehouse, and we want here first of all the brand displayed, item name, if stock is available, the measure used of the item, so whether it's a bag, a tin, or a can, the minimum maximum quantity, and the reorder point, the active status we don't need here. So then I will go ahead and save that. Okay, so I'll now run that. We can then see within this report for these coordinators, because this is a coordinator grid, we have then the brand names, the items, the stock available, the measurement in use, the minimum maximum quantity, as well as the reorder point. Okay, so I do want to add some custom views here. So within this one, we will access the events and on record. And then here, I will start off by adding some custom color combinations to the fields. So here, if the stock is a min or maximum value, we're hitting a restock point basically. So we basically take here the field restock, stock available equals the min quantity, or stock available equals the max quantity. And if so, then we change the field color. Okay, so then we want to do the same for the restock. This time for the reorder point, or if stock value is less than the reorder point. We again change the field color, and again I will apply that straight away then for the next 2 fields, which is then if stock is good, so if stock available is higher than the min quantity, or stock available is less than the max quantity, then again we change the field color, and we do that again also for out of stock or excess stock. So if I go ahead and now run the grid application, we can now see within this grid that we now have some color combinations depending on values that are presented. And of course, we can customize these further as well as change the colors and so forth within the application. Okay, so this grid is pretty much ready. We then have another grid to create, which is then the transfer items. So let's go ahead and create another application again. We will again select a grid application, and we are again using a custom SQL statement, this time selecting the view transfer items table and combining that with the coordinators. So this grid I will call grid underscore and VW and transfer items. Click create. And again, we can adjust here the fields. And what we want here then is first of all, the date at the top, the item, the transfer quantity, where that is, transfer quantity is here, drag that up, and then the quantity available source, and the new quantity available source, that's there, let's drag that one up. Then we have the quantity available destination, new quantity for the destination, then the reason for the transfer, and then also we want to view the employee name of who requested this transfer. Okay, so I save that, and we can go ahead and run this grid again, enter the coordinator ID, and we can see then the transfers made via employee 2. And here we have reason as an image. So let's come here and adjust this field, the reason, and we can change that to text and run. Enter the coordinator ID, and we still have as an image reason. Save that, text. Run again. Okay, so now we have the reason displayed correctly, the quantities, the item, as well as the date, and search capabilities. Okay, so then let's go ahead and create then our next grid application. So I'll go new application again. Again, select the grid application. Custom SQL select again, and this time we are selecting the view inventory adjustment table and combining that with the coordinators as well as then the warehouses. Okay, so this table is then called the grid underscore VW, or the view inventory adjustments. And click create. Okay, so we can run this grid as well and view the grid, and we can see here the defaults. So let's make some quick adjustments here for the data that we want to have viewed. So here we want to see the date first. We want to see the item name, quantity available. We don't need the description. Quantity adjusted. We need then the new quantity, the reason, as well as again the employer name. So save that and run, and then we can view here the items. Again, the reason needs to be adjusted, so let's change that here for this field, reason, again text, and save that. Okay, and then run. And we enter the ID again, we run the grid, and we see this time the reason correctly applied. Okay, so we still need to create another grid application for the item selections. So let's go ahead with that one. And again, we will be using a custom MySQL statement. So we can go ahead and view that here. And this time we're using the items table, and we're joining that on the brands table. Okay, so now we will call this one grid underscore TB underscore items underscore select. Okay, and click create. Okay, and here I will remove the details, summary, chart, and search. Save that. And for the grid, I will change the orientation to slide. And we can view here then the layout and blocks, and change the label position to above, 1 beside, below, 100% start open. Save that. Let's go ahead and run the application, and we enter then the item ID, so just enter 1. And we can see here the item. So we want to remove here the sorting and actually place in a back button in here. So I'll come back here to buttons, and then we want to add a new button. So I select here PHP button, and we're going to call this back history. Okay, create. And then for this, we then apply an SC redirect, and it will send us back to the form TB items warehouses, which will then also be linking this to. And then I'll change here the styling to danger. We can add a font awesome icon for an arrow to go back. And we just adjust here the title. And save that. You can adjust it then also in the toolbar. And move that over to the left as far as it will go. Okay, and we can run that again. We have now a back button. Okay, so for the toolbar, we can actually go ahead and remove all of the other buttons here. Leave this back button there only. And then we also want to go ahead and remove all of the bottom toolbar buttons. Okay, so now we run that again. We still have the sorting to remove. Let's come here back to sorting and all off. Or none even, so none. Okay, save. And then we can run again. Now we have a new view for our item selection. Okay, see then the purchase price, selling price, item ID. We can actually remove the ID and have that a little cleaner. Okay, so then we have the items, the next form we need to create, which this would then also link to. So let's first of all then create here the application, which is then a grid application again. And we have then a select statement, customize again. And now this time we are using the items X warehouses as well as the coordinates and warehouse table. Now here we are selecting when the case is active 1, then it's going to display a yes. And when it's active 0, it will display a no. Okay, so we are actually just customizing some of the content within our selection. So now this grid I will call grid underscore TB underscore items X warehouse or warehouses, and click create. Okay, so here again I'll remove the detail summary chart and go ahead and run the grid application. Enter the coordinates, and we have then our grid ready with our warehouses, stock availability, min and max quantities, the reorder point, and active. Now here again we could apply the customization on the max quantities and reorder points, and apply some custom colorizations there if we wanted to. Okay, so we need to actually create a form for this also. So I'm going to create a new application and create a form. And this time we select then here the table, items X warehouses, and then click create. Okay, so within our grid application here, I will go ahead and link our two applications now. So here will be an edit link, go next, and we want to select here this form, so I can enter a search query, select the form, go next, we're using the field variables, confirm that, and then here we can select whether we want to have the form display any new buttons. We do not want to enable insert here, but we do want update and delete, and then we can go ahead and save that. Okay, so now if I go ahead and run the grid application, enter the coordinator ID, we now have the add new button and optional edit available, because we need to generate also the form for the warehouses. Okay, so for the form, we want to make some adjustments here, indicate these field values and so on. So let's go ahead and apply those. So first of all, edit fields, and I will hide here the warehouse ID, place the warehouse name to the top, move the item name to the top as well as the measure. The other fields, I leave them as they are, save that. And then we can again come here and adjust the lookup values for each of these fields. So here I'll select warehouses, indicate the warehouse name, choose connection, use a title. For the item ID, we want to then display the items. So select here, items, and then the item name. Again, I'll use a title. And then we also have the measurement, which we can then use the create select again. And then we have here the measures, measure, so that is correctly displayed. Use the title again, run the grid application, and we now have our form ready. Okay, so within here, we still need to add an event. So if I come here to the form, and then on validate, we want to make some adjustments if the minimum and maximum quantity are then applied. So here, if min quantity is more than the max quantity, we display an error message. And then if the reorder point is more than the min quantity, or the reorder point is less than the max quantity, then again, we display an error message that the restock point must be in range within those values. Okay, so then we can save that, and we want to then here create one more application, which is then the coordinator, or the dashboard for the coordinators. Now we could apply the dashboard to multiple users other than the administrator, as we have already created a custom dashboard for the admin. We don't really need to do that. We can use maybe this dashboard for multiple users. So here for the dashboard, I will add another link here. First of all, widget 2, and then we have them both here displayed. Make some adjustments to the height and width of the grid application that will be displayed. And then we can select here the names that will be applied. So here I will call this inventory adjustments, and then the application I will link here is the VW underscore inventory adjustments. Save that. Now for the next widget here, I will place here the product transfers. The product transfers. And this time we want to display the VW underscore transfer items. Okay, so then we click save again, and we can save that and run the dashboard. And now we can see this one running. Okay, so our dashboards are ready. All of our applications are ready. We are pretty much now ready to start building the security system, combining everything together and having everything run as one. Now I do believe there was one item I have missed out so far, which is the item select. So we had just created here the TB item select, and we needed to actually link this to applications. So we have created here the grid TB item select, and we can actually, if I just run this really quickly, we have a quick look at it, and we can see here that if we enter now the item ID, and we can then view an item. So I had previously mentioned, instead of using the display or the details, which we have available within the grid, we can actually link a field to view this item. So here, for instance, if I run this grid application, we have here warehouse inventory. Now within your own project, you can apply this to other applications, of course. I'm only going to apply it to this one application here for this video. So here we have the item. And when we want to now view more information on this item, we have here the detail, of course, which in some cases is not so pretty. So here, if I remove here the detail, summary and chart, like we have done in the majority of other applications, run that again, we'll see now that the detail option is now gone. Okay, so now what we do then is we come here to application links, we create a new link, and we are going to create a field link. And now what we do is we select here the field to which we want to attach the link to. So I want to attach it here to the item field. So I select here item and then go next. Now here I need to insert the form we had just created, which was then the items form. So here we have, we confirm, inventory, item select. So it was actually grid items select, which we have here. So I'll select that, go next. And then here we pass on the ID variable, which is from the field, to then here the item ID. Okay, and then we confirm that. And then we can specify to open in the same window, in another window, iframe parent or modal. So I will select to open it in the modal window. We'll close, leave the default options and save that for the time being. You can make further adjustments yourself once you have the project running on your side, and change how you want to have the product viewed. So now viewing this, I can now come here and click on the item, and I view a modal window with the product item displayed. Now with the original form we had created, we had added a redirect when we click the back button. So in this case, it's not ideal for what we have ongoing here. So what we can actually do is create a new application, for instance, and link those two together. So that is one example of actually doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and within this select, I'm going to do is close that. And I will make a copy of this one, grid TB items, and I'll call it view and go OK. Okay, so then now here within the warehouse inventory, this one will be calling the items X warehouse, this item select, the one we just created, and also the view. So let's go ahead and open both of those now again. And then what we can do is we can make some slight adjustments here, because what we want to do is actually link one of these views. So if I take here the view, for instance, I want to link that here to the form. And by doing that, I'm going to come here and create a new button and call it a link button. In fact, we want a PHP button. And I'll call this one item details and go create. And what I'll do is again use a redirect, this time using a modal window. And we'll pass the variable, the item variable on here with the ID that is presented here. Okay, so if I go here, save, change the styling, and here, product details, and we can maybe add an icon here for info. There we go, save that. Okay, so this one is going to open the grid TB item select, which is our initial one here, and we want to change that now here to view. Okay, and that one then here, this view, the one we just created or copied, will then retain the back button. Okay, so in this select one, I will go ahead then here and remove here the back history, and we'll enable here the toolbar again with the back button. And that will then enable us then the form buttons here. Move it again to the left hand side. I'll save that. And now if we generate those applications, they will then display those buttons correctly. We are now reaching the point where we're nearly ready for our security. Let's first of all make sure these are working correctly. So if I run here the form for the warehouse, and here if I go product details, now create the modal window back, I come back to the form, and here in the grid house inventory, if I run this one, I can now then view here the inventory of a warehouse, view the item. Okay, we don't have our button here yet, so let's come back here to our grid, check out application link, come to properties. So we have modal window, close after update, close after insert, those are good. And we need to enable here the navigation again to exit the application. So exit, form buttons, reload, and then exit. Okay, so we enable exit that also. Right now if we run this, view the item, we now have our exit button. So now within the warehouse grid, when we view now product within the modal window, it will now also display the exit button. There we go, and taking us back to the grid. Okay, so now all our applications are ready, and we now need to build our security. So we're actually building a group security, which is then now automatically generated by Scriptcase. So let's go ahead and start by creating that. First of all, we come up here to modals, and then we select security. So I will create a new profile, go next, and I will select group for the security platform. Now I select then the connection. Now we check if I do still have the tables available here. So, okay, so we don't have our security tables here, which is great. So we can then go ahead and create them. It will include a prefix. Now, if they were there, I could select then here the delete tables if they already existed. And in this case, I won't protect logged users. Normally I would, but it does include some extra configuration as well as then the use social networks. So I'm just going to go next for now. It's gonna created the tables, so I'll close that. And if I look back here in the database, we can see now that we have security tables created. Okay, so now within this application, we have two groups. So we have the security group for administrators, we have the security group for coordinators, and we have the security group for typical employees, which we will need to configure within our security application and the database in a few moments. First, let's continue here and configure here the applications. And as we see here, each of the tables are automatically selected. If I would choose to use my own tables, which are already in the database and not generated by Scriptcase, then I could select here the fields to which I want to apply each value from the security. So I'm going to go next. And I have here first of all the general application options. So I can change here the application prefix. I'm going to leave the default. What happens when the session expires, whether we take no action, redirect a user, or display a message. The choice is yours. I like to redirect a user back to the login. We can also apply encryption to the security. So here I'll select SHA-256 or 512, whichever is suitable for your project. We can choose to enable security. Now, when we enable the security here, it means that the session will expire for the applications. So this is important to note that sometimes you will then not be able to continue using the applications after a period of time. So enabling this will again be your choice. We can add capture to our front page, enable change the folder name, which is then generated within Scriptcase, apply the theme. So here I would select our default theme for this project. If we have log files, then we can have it selected here. And for this project, I'm just going to create the default menu application and select the menu as the type. And of course, use Suite Alert within my applications. So for the login, you can of course make some changes here to the minimum maximum sizes of the username as well as the password. If you can view the characters, this is one of the new features. So as we'd seen previously, you are able to see the password of the password field. And then we can also configure how the password is retrieved once it is or has been forgotten. So we can set here reset, and which is then reset automatically by the project and then updated within the database. This is then emailed to the user, or we can send them a link which then forces the user to click that link within the email, access the platform, which then again creates extra pages for that new registration or confirmation. Okay, so then we have new users. We can specify if new users can register in the first place, whether they require activation by email, which would then, on registration, send them an email with a specific code, which then they validate. And we can also notify the administrator automatically. We can specify here also the default group. So here the default group I will set as coordinators, or say employees, warehouse staff. That's warehouse staff. There you go, warehouse. Okay, so for the email settings, now I would highly suggest actually entering these for your specific project and server. I'm not going to do it now, which can then of course be updated within the project. So I can show you that quickly as we then progress in a moment. Ideally, you would add these details here now, and that would then save you changing the code within the applications. So for the login template, I am going to use a template, and I will enable external libraries. Okay, so here what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the samples library and I'm going to save that as samples project X, or whatever you want to call it. So in this case, I could call it specifically for this project. Now I should have maybe saved this. So if I save that again, and I actually want to save the library name, which I did not select just now, and I want to select as project samples, and then I'll say now warehouse. Okay, so if I save that as, and if I scroll down here, I now have the project libraries available, which is where I've just saved this, and I now need to say to use this library. So I select use this library and then save the project libraries. These files will then be added to this project, which I can then use throughout the project. Okay, so for the project libraries, we're going to come back to that shortly. Let's return back to the security. Now if I select here to reload, I now have the library files available. So within the samples library, you do find some forms that you can already select, some login, as well as menu options that you can apply within your project. So this is for the security login page. So I will say select login 02 and then go next. Okay, so now we just define our group account. So I will just leave admin as the username password. We can then change the administrator name, the email address to which all platform administrator emails are sent, as well as change the admin group name. When you're ready, we can just go next. Now, once the applications are all configured, well, the security is all configured, we can then just go next, and we can choose to save the profile if you want to, or just generate the security. Now, Scriptcase is going ahead now, creating all of the applications, and you can see it works quite fast. So if I now generate the source code for this project, or the applications which have just been generated, we can then start to view the security applications, such as the login page, which we have now here, app login, the group applications, the retrieve password, sync applications, and so forth. So because this is a security application for group usage, let's have a quick look. If I run here the menu, we automatically now have a security message within Scriptcase. So Scriptcase does have security enabled in the background, which we can enable or disable. For this copy, it is actually at the moment enabled, and this is why now I receive this error message. In a live environment, it will just send you back to the login page. So in this case, I now need to run the login. So now that I have generated the security, I should note that the security generation has now also included all of your applications that you have here. So during the creation of your project, I would definitely suggest to include the descriptions that you want to include before the creation of your security platform. Once you've added the descriptions into these applications, they will then also be visible within the security environment, which we will see in a moment. So now if I log in here to the login page, I now by default only have here, first of all, the security applications for users, applications, groups, and so forth. So now, because this is a multi-group application, I need to go ahead and create our groups. So we have here, first of all, group 1 as administrator, group 2 as warehouse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change warehouse, and I'm going to change this to coordinator. Save. And I will go ahead and add a new group, and this one I'll call warehouse. Add. And now we have 3 user groups of applications and users available within our groups. So now come here to users. We can see that we can manage users beautifully. We have here then the 3 groups available for the administrator, coordinator, and warehouse. So then I can come here now, add 3 new users, emp1. And I'll say password emp1, confirm password emp1. Name employee1, emp1 at emp.com, and then in this case we'll call it warehouse add, and I'll then say add another one, and this one coord, I'll spell correctly, coord1, password coord1. Confirm that, coordinator 1, now of course the email address and so forth should be ideal to the user, so I'll select here then the coordinator, add that. So now I have already the employee as well as the coordinator groups ready. So if I come now to here to applications, groups and applications, I can select now the groups, administrator, coordinator, and warehouse. So right now at this current time, when a coordinator logs in or a warehouse employee logs in, they will not see no applications. So now I need to come here to the group security, and now from here I can enable the applications. So here I'll select 50 applications, and I could select all of the applications or customize them according to the user group. So in this case, this would be the coordinators. I may not want them to have any access to the security applications, but I would want them to have access to all of these grids, as well as some of those forms. Of course, some of the admin forms and grids, such as the brands, warehouses, and so on, you may not want them to have access to. So again, here you can customize that, adjust that according to the group. Once they have been applied, you just come to the bottom of the grid application, save these selected. Now, when this user group logs in, these will be the only applications they will be able to access and the only applications they will have visible within their menu and so forth. So the security is very self-intuitive. It may just require a slight configuration when you are using multiple groups and so forth. Okay, so now within Scriptcase, we still need to make a few adjustments to the security, and I do want to still also make some changes to the library we have just added. So let's get cracking and start first of all with the library. So here, tools, and then if I come here to external libraries, we can then access here the library that we created. So I'll come here to edit, and now we have a folder navigation. So within the samples, we have forms, we have the lib files, we have the logins applications, as well as the menu applications which are available. So I'll come here to login, and we were using login 02. So I can come here and edit this one, either change the name, rename it, and so forth, or I can open it by simply clicking on it, and then in here I can change content for our login page. So here, for instance, welcome to our inventory management system. Do forget my spelling mistakes, as I tend to type too fast sometimes. Please go ahead and log in. So we can quickly and simply make changes here to the login page by adjusting here the text, as well as add our own href links. And of course, we can change here the background, which is displayed. So here we have the background. So I'll just save this, and here with an image, I will then go ahead and upload a new image. Drag and drop this image in there. Okay. And I'm just going to copy the name, and then we can access here the login 02 again. Now here I will adjust the image name. Again, I change the text here. We can add further fields by copying the same method that we have here. So when we have a label, we have a simple label, HTML label indicated, and then for the class, we include the sc macros here, sc underscore field underscore class as for the class element, and then within the field, we then indicate sc field underscore info underscore the name that you want to apply to this field. And then you will be able to manage them within your application. For buttons, we see here form, submit, call. There are help files within Scriptcase which can help you a great deal with that. Okay, so our login page is now finished. If I then go ahead and close that, and we can then go ahead and generate all of our source code so that all the libraries are updated and included within the project that we currently have there. Now, there is one important element that is missing at the moment, and that is the menu. So there's something we still need to look at and include the applications which we have been creating. Okay, so the applications are now fully generated. So first of all, what I'm going to do is we should adjust, first of all, the security so that each of these groups can log in and the variables are available. So here within the security, if I run this quickly, we can have a quick glance at the new background which we have applied, as well as the changes to the text. And then we can come back here to the app login and start to adjust the events for our groups that we have. So we have here on script init, and here we reset our global variables. So the first thing we want to do here is include the new variables we have been using throughout this application. And the first one is the employee underscore ID variable. Then we also have another variable which was the var underscore coord ID for coordinators. Okay, so we have a mistake there. Okay, so we save that. And now on load, we start the application new. So then on validate, we want to make some adjustments here. So, okay, what I'm going to do is here, I will change this and comment this out. Comment out here the select. And here, okay. So now I'm just going to copy paste this to save a little time. And what we're going to do here is actually combine the user group as well as the user tables together so that we can actually see those. And what I'm going to do then is also include some new variables here as well as some changes here down the bottom. So we scroll down here, we have here else if, yes. So here we are running the actual login. So here we have user email, and we have now here two new variables included. So we have here the group ID and description. So we want to include those, so I'll indicate that these are the new variables. And then we will use user underscore group underscore ID. And that will equal then the record set RS. And I'm in the correct position, not 0 and 4. Close that one, and then the next one is then the user group description. So record set 0 and 5. Okay, so correct that and 5. And then below that, we want to then set these as new globals. So I'll come here where we set the globals and new globals. I'll spell correctly, and here we then again use the set global macro, and we will then set those values as global variables. Okay, so now they have been set, we can then run our own group selection in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply, quickly paste this in here. And now you can see if we are user group 2, we will select the coordinator ID from the coordinators table and set that then as the coordinator ID. Else, if it is an employee, so if it's group 3, then we will grab the employee ID, and that is then what we will then display. So within the downloadable project you have within the details below, you will find this is correctly configured, that when the user logs in, the correct values are selected. And the correct applications are then configured within the security. Okay, so that's the most important part after this, is that then within the Scriptcase security, the group applications are correctly configured. Okay, so the login page is now ready. We could now go ahead and log that in and start already using our applications with the specific values. Of course, we need to add further users, employee 2, employee 3. So the database below also within the downloadable project also includes the various employee groups and is fully ready to go with all group settings. Okay, so the last thing we would need to do here within this application would be to configure the application menu. Now this one itself can take a little time, so the quickest way to do this is select here the import, and then we can select here the applications which we want to import in here. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab a load of them, and then we can just really quickly adjust them within the layout. So we're just going to do that really quickly. So I'll just import all of the grids. And what I'm going to do then is I will add another item. So I unselect all of these, and that item here, menu list. So we could actually call it products, for instance. And then here we can then come here to brands, items, items view, items select. Those two wouldn't even be needed. See, they can come out. Manufacturers, warehouses. What is, I'll just drag those down really quickly. They come down here into the products. Okay, and then we can select them again and adjust them into that folder. Now, this can go on for a little while longer, so let's create one more. Just select here and to the left. And then here, all of these below, I will place them then into this new item. You select those ones, move them out, and now they are subcategory of our new menu item. We call this one here warehouse, for instance. And make the further adjustment, the following adjustments to lay out our menu as we then please. Of course, we have a slightly different layout within the project, the complete project below, and there I've taken a little more time in actually making those adjustments. So here we can uncheck these again. Let's see here, the products are actually not. There we go. Okay, so then here within the menu, we could continue adding font awesome icons and so on. So within the original one here, the exit, I've taken this out of here. So I will move that here. And for this, I'm actually displaying a font awesome icon, which is then the exit icon. And I'm not actually displaying any text at all. Okay, so I just delete the text, have then the icon there. And then I also have an icon at the top here for the dashboard, which we still have to do, which is our final job for today. And then here I would then add then the dashboard. So again, we add font awesome icon. Select then the dash. We can add custom colors and so on for hover below, and however we please. Okay, so now we have here item 30 font awesome icon. Now this should be font awesome. Go to the left, no text. So save that. Okay, let me run that. Okay, we're getting no authorized. Okay, so on the right hand side here, we can actually change then the layout. So I'm going to choose here the Gleam Dark Blue. It's one of the nicest ones. I'll save that again. And we can see here the item 30 bugged out. So let's come here and select this again. Dash. Save that. And then if I now remove here the item 30, save that again, we now just have the dashboard icon and the exit icon. Okay, so we have then one final application to create, and I will create that here in root, and that will be a new application of the blank format. So here blank, and I will call this here dash select, or just dash in the original. And then here we have a very basic group selection. So if user group ID is 1, then we redirect to the admin dashboard. And if user group ID is 2, then we redirect to the standard user dashboard. So I'll go ahead and save that. And then the app menu, what I'll do is I'll come here to settings and then select here one application. And there I will select now or indicate the blank dash select. And that will now open this blank application, which will then automatically redirect to the appropriate dashboard depending on the user group. Now here within the menu items, I would then also want to apply that here to item 1, so that here this would then also open this one, blank dash select, and this way then regardless of the user group that is using the menu, they will then always receive the correct dashboard. Okay, so that is our project complete. Let's go ahead and log in, and then we can see how we are going. So what we want to do now is actually change our project description here. We have here our properties, and then we can choose here the initial application. So we want to select here the login, app login, and save that. And then within Scriptcase, we can just use here the run project button at the top, and it will automatically always log or start our login page, and with that our project. So it will also automatically generate everything. So now we have here now our login page. I can log in then with the admin, and then depending on my user group, I receive the associated login page and dashboard. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I sincerely hope you've all enjoyed watching today's Scriptcase video and have learned a great deal as to see how easy Scriptcase is to use, how rapid it can be for application development, and believe that it does include many more features and capabilities. Yet as you can see within Scriptcase, it is very big and you can do a great deal with this project for your own applications. So again, thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you again soon, and until next time.